Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, my name is Rarsu Amarabi. On this channel, I film content surrounding graduate school, sustainability education, and lifestyle. This is another episode of the research feature series, and we have on the channel today Min is a PhD candidate at the University of Wyoming, and he will be telling us all about his research in carbon storage technologies. He's solving one of the greatest challenges the planet faces today, which is climate change and global warming. So we want to hear about the exact research he's doing. And another interesting thing is that he used to be an international student, but right now he has a merit-based green card. So he's just going to be telling us briefly how he went about that. So without further ado, let's get right into the interview. Welcome Ming to the channel. Thank you for accepting my invitation to be on the channel today.
Thank you, Roja. I know you're in Florida right now, and it's so beautiful outside. Instead, you're stuck here with me, so really appreciate that.
So, can you just tell us about yourself, like a brief bio?
Yeah, I'm currently, like she said, I'm currently a PhD student at the University of Wyoming, and I'm also working for Los Alamos National Lab for most of my PhD. And um, I do work in carbon sequestrations for the Department of Energy, and that's what we're going to be covering
Oh,
today, I guess, in my talk and
eh,
interview.
yeah. So, what department are you pursuing your PhD in?
I'm in geology.
Geology. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have a master's before you started your PhD?
Yeah, I did my master at the University of Kansas
Also in geology?
in engineering, actually. So carbon sequestration is very disciplinary, multidisciplinary,
Mm-hmm.
and it requires both engineering and geology.
Oh, okay.
And so it helps to have both backgrounds.
Right. Can we know what your undergrad field was in also?
Was in geology as well.
Oh, okay. So you did geology, engineering, geology.
Yeah.
Okay. So the carbon sequestration research part, how did you like what brought you, like how were you able to pick this field to pursue in your PhD?
Um, I started out with energy. Actually, I was working in the oil and gas industry for a while. It actually helped me, travel around the world without my parents' money, and I really enjoy that. It also helped me. The energy also helped me, come to the U.S. with full scholarship to Kansas, and I really appreciate that. And then after Kansas, I started working for the Kansas Geological Survey on the DOE projects. That's why is that where get started with doing all the modeling for different parts of Kansas injection sites where they have feasibility studies. It's basically means that you want to evaluate whether it's possible to inject CO2 and keep it there underground for a long period of time. And so after Kansas, I would say that's where I started with CO2 sequestration.
So can you tell us about your research specifically? What actually do you do in carbon sequestration?
So I'm a reservoir modeler. Basically, that means I built reservoir models or rocks models that try to understand what the fluid flow patterns is and how to store CO2 underground for long periods of time. And that's sometimes require multiple tools because if you only models the rocks under the subsurface, it requires one simulator, for example, is one aspect of that. But if you also want to model the whole system, like if you have faults, if you have wells in the area that CO2 can leak through, that's the whole system models, and we want to be able to ensure that the CO2 stay there for a long period of time, according to the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA. Uh,
Yeah.
I was just running a model that lasts for at least 100 years because that part of a regulation.
So what happens after 100 years? It comes back to the atmosphere.
What's that? Can you
What what
say that
what
again?
what do you think? Like, if you're able to model for like the CO2 to be stored under the ground for like at least 100 years, are you saying like at a point it will definitely like seep back into the atmosphere, like
Um,
the CO2?
so there's many trapping mechanism. For example, if the CO2 interact or chemical reactions happens with the rocks, we really want the CO2 to become rocks, permanently store
Okay.
underground. Yeah, there's. I'm glad you mentioned that part where CO2 could potentially leak. Yes, and we also have a threshold for uh, evaluation. Let's say per year, if only less than 1% of the CO2 leak through the atmosphere, we consider that a success.
Yeah, true. True.
Yeah.
So like you
So,
said, you're also like your modeling also looks at like the reactions, like in it becoming like a rock or like a solid material that
uh,
permanently stays there.
I haven't touched that yet.
Oh, okay.
There's that potential that I really want to consider later in my career.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
models are not perfect, right? We make a lot
yeah,
of
yeah,
assumptions to
yeah,
simplify the model.
true. So this kind of seem obvious, but like I don't want to assume that, but like what application in the industry does your research modeling have right now? Do you think they can use, or what you're working on can actually be used directly in the industry to for this storage purposes?
Yeah, there's so many applications. I've seen people transition into nuclear waste disposal
Oh, yeah.
because that's a big problem in New Mexico
Mhm.
um, for the Department of Energy. I also see people work in geothermal energy. Like you have two one injection well and one production well, where you inject CO2 or water on one end, and then you produce that fluid on the other end, and that you retain the heat from all the magma rock underground to generate power or electricity to
Mhm.
you know to help the economy. In the petroleum industry, there's CO2 enhanced oil recovery, and it's been done for decades and decades. So there are many applications out there for CO2 sequestration.
So if you were to continue in this particular field of research, what area would you work on like in the future?
Um, I would definitely try to expand my modeling skills. Like I
Mhm.
was telling you earlier, um, we make a lot of assumptions. For example, my models are currently isothermal. They don't change. There's no heat exchange, and that's one things I really want to add into the models, and just kind of expand um, the scope of the modeling work, and that will allow me to do more work not just in CO2, but maybe with water, maybe with nuclear waste stuff.
Okay. So you're
Yeah.
basically like your the skills you've gathered or you're gathering during your PhD doesn't would not necessarily like remain in just carbon sequestration, like you said. You can apply it in like other wastes, like the nuclear waste and all. So that's good.
Um,
Yeah.
right. Modeling is
Mm,
applicable in a
yeah.
lot of places.
Yes. So I think you mentioned it earlier. You're fully funded, or you're fully funded for your
Mhm.
PhD, and
Right.
that means you were like a research assistant or teaching assistant, right? Or both. Throughout.
Mainly a research assistant.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like you work. now, like with your green card, you work fully at the national laboratory also, right?
Um, After school, yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. So, but like, how even now in school, how have you been able to balance your research life, your academic life? Because at the earlier stage of your PhD, you needed to take coursework, your research work, and your social life. How are you able to create this life work balance?
So I use a technique I call time blocking,
Mm-hmm.
and it comes from a book from Cal Newport. I don't know if you heard of the book Deep Work.
No, I have not.
That's Yeah. So basically, in that book, the author mentions that in order to think deeply about a problem,
Mm-hmm.
you need to set aside a time window to really focus, uh, on thinking deeply about your problem,
Mm-hmm.
and that is where will have the most productivity for your work. For example, I set aside, let's say I get up early in the morning and work from 6 to 7:30 or 8 on my problem, and then I go out and enjoy it with my family, um, you know, and then I come back later and think about the problem because during that 1 or 2 hours windows, I found that I'm most productive in solving my problems. It's the
Yeah.
same thing with my TOEFL. You probably took that test.
Mm-hmm.
It's a 4 hour test, and I picked the time that I would, let's say if I'm gonna take that test from 11 a.m. You know, so I will start practicing that for that test from 11 a.m. every day, and it kind of creates a routine.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it has proved to be effective over a long period of time.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Um, So, like I mentioned earlier, that you were an international student, but now you're not because you're a green card holder, and you got
Okay.
this through like merit based EB2 NIW. So, like, when in your program did you even decide to apply for this? Like when did you just decide to apply, and like can you just briefly tell us like how you applied? I know you have a full video that will be linked in the description box for people that want to know the details, but like just give us like a brief overview of why you applied, or when you decided. Of course I know when you decided to apply, and like how did you go about the process?
Mhm. Yeah. So the thing is, for me, I have a family. My wife is here on an F2 visa. And so the sooner I can apply for that green card, the better, because it'll allow her to work and support our family. And that's, as soon as I feel like I qualify, then I
Mhm.
start applying um, right away. I have a, funny story. Do you want to hear that?
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, just a short story. So I reach out to many lawyers, and some of them wants the low hanging fruits. They want you to already have your PhD and working as a postdoc, to increase your chance of getting that green card. And so there was one law firm that I was talking to, and they said, "Oh, I'll check in with you 1 year later after you've done your PhD and maybe working as a postdoc somewhere." And truth be known, that 1 year later they called me back, and I said I already have my green card approved. So you have to be proactive, and
Yeah.
not every law firm out there will be willing to work with a PhD students.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, just do your
So
research.
what year
And
did you get it?
so my I-140 was approved in 2019, and the
Oh, okay.
actual green card came in 2020.
You started your application in 2019, right?
Earlier in that, so I started preparing in 2018.
Oh, okay. But like your
Yeah,
first submission, the first form was submitted in 2018.
in 2019. Yeah,
Oh, okay. Nice.
yeah.
Wait, and did you end up using a lawyer or you did it yourself? Like you found a lawyer?
I used a lawyer.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I
Nice.
used a lawyer. I thought the time saved was totally worth the money.
Yeah. So, like
Yeah.
I said, guys, he has a detailed video where where he talks about like the steps involved in like applying for an EB2 NIW. And so that video will be linked down in the description box if you want to know all about it. Please go watch it. Okay. So I'd like to ask you, Min, what is your future plans? Like you're graduating this semester. So are you going into the industry? Are you thinking of academia? What do you think?
So I came back to academia from industry, and I probably will be looking at least at government positions or
Oh,
industry, and most likely at this point is going to be industry. And I'm still waiting to hear back from a couple of places, so I haven't made up my mind yet.
oh, nice.
Yeah, still in the process. So
Mhm. Okay. What advice would you give to undergraduates or even like students that have graduated from their first degree that want to come into your field of research? What steps should they take right now in order to prepare them for a smooth research career? Yeah, or PhD. Yeah.
this is kind of hard, but I would say that try to do a literature review of your field, and find a mentor. If you graduate from your undergrad, you likely have faculty advisor
Mm-hmm.
from that school, and I still remember reading my first paper and not understanding anything, and
I
so
am.
that's really,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. To this day I still have to keep up with all the lingo in
Mm-hmm.
my field, so you're not alone, or nobody is alone in this journey. So first thing is to find a mentor and try to do a literature review, see where you can add values, we'll see where the knowledge gap is, and um, then execute, apply. Try to apply to position you can find either in industry or academia where you could find, online or in person,
Okay.
because you don't know what you don't know, right? If you don't apply,
Yes. Yeah,
you're
true.
not going to be selected.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, just like you said, literature review. Even like it sounds like, oh, you've not started the program, why are you doing literature review? But to know what is being done there and if you're even really interested in that field, like try to read a lot, ask questions, look for students, like current graduate student in the field you think you're interested in and try to discuss with them. Like that's like part of the mentorship too. It's not just faculty, right? Even like students
Hmm.
higher than you, like can be like a kind of mentor to you.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really good. So like the final question I have for you is now like what advice would you give to current graduate students in any field, not just your field? Like what advice would you give to like me, for example, I'm in my second year in my PhD. What can you tell me to help me navigate this graduate school PhD better as someone that is almost like graduating? Like you've been in it for a couple of years and you know better. So what what advice would you give to someone like me?
Yeah, this is a really interesting questions, and this one of the mistakes I keep making during graduate school is that you need to learn to set boundaries. You need to communicate clearly with your advisor or supervisor, whoever you work under, what their expectations are, and what their suggestions for going to achieve those expectations. Because a lot of the time in academia, the mentor is to keep working and keep working, and without you know a certain goal in mind. Obviously, you could put together a manuscript, but there's always more things to do,
Mhm,
right? And so, where do you stop and move on? When do you submit that manuscript? Where do you send that email to your advisor? Because you need to be able to, to say this is the amount of work I'm doing is enough, right? You need to move on to the next
mhm,
projects or next problem. And I've learned this in industry, they have a deadline, you have to have a deadline and then a set of goals to accomplish by that time. And communication is real important. If you don't know what you're doing and how much of it is enough, you're going to be working all the time and
Sure.
feeling inadequate.
Sure. Sure, that's
Yeah.
like I'm even like yeah, I can totally relate. Like you really need to communicate with your supervisors. They're the ones that decide whether you get this
Yeah.
PhD at the end of the day or
Yeah.
not. So if you're doing a work and they don't even know what you're doing, like you can waste months doing
Yeah.
what you're not meant to do. And if you have two supervisors, because some people like me, I have two
Hmm.
major like co-major supervisors, you have to make sure that you communicate with both of them and they're on the same page, like they know what you're saying, because sometimes you
Hmm.
realize that one person might understand you, another person might not. So like with emails, with setting up meetings like video calls, like if they don't understand your emails, make sure that like everybody's on the same page before you move forward, so that you don't like waste like any time doing what
Yeah.
you're not meant to do. So yeah, thank you for that. So yeah, this is the end of this interview. Thank you for coming once again and sharing all of this wisdom with us. We're very grateful. When I say us, I mean me and my subscribers. Yeah, I have learned a lot from what you just said, and I know they too will learn. So yeah, thank you very much. And for my audience, I'm going to be leaving his contact details down in this description box. I'll leave your LinkedIn, so, like, if anyone
Hmm.
wants to reach out to you through LinkedIn, they can connect with you and ask you any questions they may have. And so, yeah, if you guys are not yet subscribed, please hit on the red subscribe button, click on the like button, share, comment, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.
All
Thank
right.
you.
See y'all.
Yeah.